Page 45, The House of the Rising Sun. On page 44, they're talking about E minor. This key on the House of the Rising Sun, that's an E minor. It has one sharp, so it's relative to G major, because G major has one sharp. They both, okay. And again, I encourage you then to go do a scale video on E minor, 2 octaves, the intermediate part. You're going to have fun reading that stuff on page 44. It's just really wonderful stuff. And I explain E minor in the scale video, so just go watch that. I'm too lazy to say all that again. I want to talk about House of the Rising Sun. A few things here. I'm going to start with the right hand. Look at the beginning of this. You're starting out down here with the thumb, and immediately on the half note it's a 3-1 fingering, which means you play it with the third finger and then substitute the thumb for it. And that's really common. So, and do the substitution immediately. Don't wait. I think in the past I may have said you can do the substitution anytime doing it, doesn't matter. I've found through my experience in experimenting with this, it really is safer if you just do any finger substitutions immediately when you get to the key, as a general rule. Into the first line in the right hand, you have the last measure. It's an A and then an E. I recommend you play the E with second finger, and then the next E on the next line with the thumb. So 2 fingers. You can play them both with the thumb, but I'm recommending 2 on. And then in the second line, we have all these E's and D's going on. So you do the first one with 5, and then I suggest a 4 for the half note, and then another 5, and then the D is the 4, and then the quarter note D with 5, and then 3 on that. Third line, the B is held over from the previous measure, and you played it with the third finger. So now they want you to use the 5th finger. That's fine. Now the last measure of the third line, that is the measure right before the last line, you play the A, and then you're going to play the E with the thumb. So in the last line on the half note E, I suggest you play it with second finger, and then third finger, and then fourth finger, and then finally the last E is with the 5th finger. That puts you in position where you want to be. Then it shows you RH, meaning right hand. They got that line going down. The line indicates the melody's going down. They don't need the RH because there are no notes shown in the upper staff. Everything's in the bottom, so you go by the stems. Where are the stems? Well, the stems going up, use the right hand. And like so. Then in the last measure, I recommend a 2-5 fingering, because this is the chord. And that's the fingering for the chord. Now they've left out the B, so it's here. It's still the fingering for the chord, so you played in the next to the last measure, you played the E. Now you're going to play the rest of it. So I recommend 2-5 there. Left hand is pretty much broken chords, there's no biggie. Just watch out. A few accidentals thrown in here. In a minor key, you pretty much always get accidentals thrown in. The last 2 measures in the left hand at the bottom there, I like their fingering because, again, those 4 notes, that's a chord. It's an E minor chord, extended position, and that's the fingering for it. So use the 4th finger on the G. Now, at the top, between the stabs and the first full measure, they have legato. Legato means connected. Connected. There's no staccato in this. It's just a nice piece. You'll find recordings of this all over the place. The tempo, they say, is andante moderato, which is sort of a moderate andante. An andante is a nice leisurely pace. I don't know what that is, you decide. That's The pedal is going to help with the legato thing, but the pedal causes problems. I don't like a lot of mushiness in the sound. Now this piece is kind of mushy anyway, so we can get away with it. But I want to point out a few little things with the pedal you can think about, experiment with. First line, they're saying overlapping pedal all across the line, which would be this. And that's fine. You don't get the mushiness so much in the right hand on those because it happens real quick and then it's gone, and the ear doesn't mind that too much, so it's okay. Now if you were to do that like the first full measure, you have an E and an F sharp. If the F sharp were longer than just a short note, then that could, it's not, unless the piece wants that kind of dissonant sound, we got to do something. And what I end up doing usually is I simply lift the pedal when I play that 8th note. It just happens real quick, and that way I don't get the mushiness. But as I said, you don't need to in this piece because it's okay. However, it's something to experiment with the pedal. Well, you got to experiment and see, listen to the sound, and is it the sound you want? Be picky. Now, first to the second line, at the beginning there, underneath the staff it says ped simile. That means keep pedaling in a similar style that you've been doing. Well, you've been doing legato pedaling, so now they're telling you go ahead and legato pedal throughout the whole piece. At the end, they put the pedaling in because in the first line you're changing the pedal on each measure. Well, that's what they expect you to do now. Change it on each measure, legato pedal. But at the end, the last 2 measures, you don't change it. You keep it down for the full 2 measures, so they have to show you the pedaling there. A couple of things here I want to point out. The sound, again, you got to listen very carefully to this, or it doesn't really matter. You can disregard this part if you're not really listening. But look at the first line of the second measure. In the right hand we have this, and then we have a new phrase, so we're going to lift up and down, so we get a little silence in the right hand. So don't connect them. Lift up and down. But there's no silence in the left hand. It's just so. So, however, now you add the pedal into that mess. Well, the pedal covers up the silence. Well, I want the silence. So what I'm suggesting you might try is finger pedal that measure. Don't use the foot to pedal it. Finger pedal it. Finger pedaling is when you hold the notes down with your fingers so they ring out. It's the same thing a pedal would do, except you're just doing it with the fingers. So in the left hand, when you play those notes, hold them down for the rest of the measure. That's what the pedal would do. No difference. But this way, if you don't pedal it, you can lift up and down in the right hand and you do get silence. So it's this, no pedal. And it sounds like it's pedaled, except the right hand gets the silence. Same thing in the third line. First measure, it's here. It's a break. The phrase is, you get the idea. So don't pedal it with the foot, pedal it with the fingers. Then you can pedal on the next measure. And same thing in the last line, first measure. Because of the break in the phrase, we finger pedal it instead of using the pedal. You're here. And I get that silence in there that you wouldn't get. We still want to connect that measure to the next measure. So it's okay if you want, after you play the last note in the right hand, go ahead and put the pedal down so that it connects it to the next measure. Now you got to change the pedal at the measure, so you're going to put it down and up again. So take the second line, it's this way. Like so, go ahead and pedal the last beat. We just didn't pedal the rest of the measure, so we get silence. Yeah, okay. It is repeated, and there is a note at the top at the beginning of this. Second time, both hands 8 VA. So instead of here, now you got to come up here. Second time, the whole second time it's all up there. Look how it's a little tricky. When you get down to the end, the last measure, on the first time through, you're here. And you repeat back up to the top. Where are you going to go? You got to know that in advance. The right hand's going here, here to here, and the left hand's going from here to here. And you don't really have any time to do it. Where the right hand plays first, the left hand gets a rest. So get that right hand up there first, and then once it's up there, then you can get the left hand up. You may have to practice that. So work on that hand movement. Let's try this out slowly. It's in 3/4 time. I know, that'll be great. You're going to have a ball at that. Okay. I'll give us 2 counts. Let's play this. Right hand, left hand, foot's on the pedal. Ready, go.